An interesting point that emerged from the conflict is the global embarrassment of some NATO members. Some of them even paid the terrorist regime in Iran to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. France has been told by some in the Middle East to stay far away from Middle Eastern affairs due to their failure to confront the Iranian terrorist regime. The UK has no working warships, apparently, and Spain is voting with and supporting the Iranian regime in the UN. All of this was, revealed during the Iran operations. It can't have gone unnoticed by Russian leadership that these European leaders are afraid to even take on the Iranian regime, despite the fact that Iran has no air force, no navy, no army. Has the perception of NATO as a threat and a reason to continue the war in Ukraine, because that's what Putin has cited, changed at all in the minds of the Russians?
Well, for example, you mentioned several countries, and I would like to just to give some remarks about them. In my country, Spain, sadly, we have very well, even far left government at some points, and yes, as you say, they are voting with Iran, and we have our government has been congratulated by Hamas, by the Taliban of Afghanistan, by the regime in Iran. Yes, it's a total mess. So, and also the problem with Spain, it's sided with the rest of Europe, for example, when speaking about Ukraine. But for example, last month we doubled the amount of gas we bought from Russia.
Wow.
And in the other way, we were our Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. He was in China, was in Beijing, and he says that they were in the right side of history, speaking against the US and Israel, and okay, as we say in Spain, and there is more and more info with it. Pedro Sanchez is side in Spain outside the Western Bloc, and it's moving to the multipolar world, to this with China, where we are making a lot of business with China, and this is quite problematic, and it's very problematic for our country, because yes, we are also a member of NATO, and I think that many people has no trust in our government, and I understand that there is no trust. So we hope that there is a political change in Spain, because I think this situation we are going to pay this, is of course at the end the country is going to pay what this prime minister, which is a total mess, is doing. And yes, he's like in love with Xi Jinping. It's really crazy, yes. And he's moving all the international policy a lot, because he doesn't want to speak about what is going on inside Spain. There is a lot of corruption scandals. His wife is accused of 4 crimes. His brother also is in court. His best friends in the Socialist Party are in jail. So you can imagine how is the situation. Yes.
Yes.
That's from Spain. The Spain point. The United Kingdom. Yes. I think they have capacity, but I think they have also a very strange position in the way that they try to, how to say, they do not want to compromise. They are, for example, in Europe, they have been more active in military things. They are showing more compromise. But it's true that it's like I think politically they don't want to act, or they don't want to be, don't want to support Trump. We have in UK is Starmer, is also Labourist, and also they have a lot of problems. But it's true they have a lot of problems with for example, with the ships and the Navy. They have a lot of problems also because they have no good maintenance of some of their ships of the Navy, so some of them has to be dismantled. They have had very woke policies inside the army, the DIE,
Yes.
diversity, equality, and for example, there was one scandal. This was a few years ago. I always mention it because it's really crazy. They put these policies in the Royal Air Force. So in one moment, they rejected white British people who want to join the Royal Air Force. So in one moment, they don't have enough pilots for the fighters.
Wow.
Because there was not enough, because they were looking for a multicultural air force, and this is crazy. This is, you are putting in risk your own security by this fanatic woke thing. Yes. So, and for France, it's true that they have to. France always lost a lot of power also in Africa, taken out by they were expelled out by the Russians, for example, in Mali, and they always try to have a highest position, but the truth is that they need to react. They are, for example, I made an interview with one expert, French expert in geopolitics, and he told me that in France they were very proud that they were going to be able to produce 100,000 drones per year, and only in Ukraine every day in each side you have several thousands, and we are speaking that the production in Ukraine, Russia, goes for millions.
Wow.
So France is saying, yeah, we're going to build 100,000. Okay, good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes, they have a perception. Yes, we were France, we are a big potency. Yes, but you have to keep the pace if you want, and the world changed very quickly. So I think these are also the points. Also, I think it's politically they don't want to get involved in the war. And yes, the image that sometimes this country shows is that they are weak. Yes, this is true.
Yeah.
Fortunately, in NATO we have other countries like Poland, for example, which is totally different. They are raising the numbers of their army. They are modernizing their army. And other countries which are looking, Finland, for example, is also a good example. How they are working to have their population prepared in case of war. So it's a total different situation, total different NATO. Yeah, but yes, about Russia. Yes, Russia wants to come back to the frontiers of the NATO of 1997. When the frontier was in Germany. Why? Because of course, with this way, they will have the possibility to make, for example, the Baltic countries, to attack them and say that I don't have problems with the US or other countries. So for that reason, they don't want, and also to make pressure, of course. If you know that the Russian tanks can go into your border, you're not going to discuss a lot with Putin. And we have seen they have done this in Georgia, in Ukraine. Yes, so that's the old way. Yes. And I mentioned the Baltic countries because, for example, this is something many people doesn't know. The Duma, the Russian parliament, did not recognize the independence of these three Baltic countries from the USSR. And Russia is the legitimate heir of the USSR. So they can say that this was not done, so this is part of their territory. And if I can assure you that if you live in the Baltic countries, you don't take this as a joke. But this is serious, yes.
Right.
And also, yes, the image for Russia. Of course, this is a problem that the NATO covers some countries. For that reason, all the Eastern countries which were in the Warsaw Pact moved quickly to join NATO. And but for them, they use this. I think like an excuse, because now in this war, if they started this war because the advance of NATO, what they get is that Finland and Sweden get into NATO. Two neutral countries for many, many, many years, and now they have joined NATO, and you have now, I think, more than 1,400 more kilometers of frontier, with NATO. Yes. So it has been a big mistake, but. The point is that, for example, the other day, after the conversation of Trump and Putin, Medvedev, which is the right hand of Vladimir Putin, he told clearly again that they were in an existential conflict with the West. So, the idea is that for Russia to expand, the way to expand, they cannot expand towards China, they have to expand toward Europe. So for them, it's like we want our geopolitical space like we have in the time of the Soviet Union, and of course this is a problem because nobody wants to be back to those times. Yes, so I think that at the end this thing of NATO is going to be all the time on the table, but with this war, I think that Putin gets the opposite, because many people start. I think they are in Europe. Is starting to react. It was very good that Trump pressured for this GDP 5% per defense, because this is something that is very important to do. And I think that some countries, like for example Germany, now start to understand that this is important. So I hope that this change, continues, goes